Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to start out talking about the gas crisis and all, and the Biden response to it and everything else. And it is just unbelievable what his energy secretary essentially said, and we're going to talk about that. And then our governor, my governor, Ron DeSantis, as I tell you all the time, man, American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God, he's done it again. He has now pardoned, or said he's going to issue pardons when the time comes for anybody charged with basically a pandemic crime. In other words, if you tried to open your business and you got fined for it, or you doing jail time, or you got too close to someone, or you didn't wear a mask when you were supposed to, he's going to pardon everybody. And he's focused on one particular couple, and we'll talk about that. But I'm telling you, man, American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God. Thank you, Mr. DeSantis. And then if we have time, and I think we will, we're going to talk about a Democratic mayor out in Texas on one of the border towns that basically is going like, what's up with this open border? The Biden administration keeps telling him that the border is closed. And he's like, well, don't believe your lying eyes. Here they come again. So we'll talk about that. But before we go any further, we always have to talk about our sponsors. To get to our sponsors, look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it. You will see the description of what we're talking about today, and you will see links to our sponsors. And number one on that list, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. Click on that. Remember to use the code that's within that link for my show so I get some credit for it. But you will get factory direct pricing delivered directly to your door on guns, ammunition, and over 100,000 related items like tactical gear, protective wear, survival gear, even Second Amendment swag. You can get all of that through Big Daddy Unlimited, and they are your Second Amendment headquarters because they are defending your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis. Then we have patriotthreads.org. If you'll notice, there's a theme here. All of our sponsors are very pro-American, very patriotic, and patriotthreads.org is right at the top of that list because they are a total fulfillment center. They will produce, what that means is they will produce high quality wear like shirts, t-shirts, even jackets maybe if that's what you want, for any charity event you have with a patriotic theme. They will help you design the shirt, produce the shirt, ship out the shirt, and help you direct the profits to the charity of your choice. Remember the initials of our show, JMT, John Martin Talks, and you'll get 20% off of anything they do. Check them out, patriotthreads.org. And then Recoil TV is all about the Second Amendment as well. They have a YouTube channel. We also have our own YouTube channel. Spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. I would appreciate more subscriptions and views there. We certainly need your support on our YouTube channel. But on Recoil TV, we have a channel within their channel. In other words, our show is archived there on a daily basis. Recoil TV produces high quality, high production videos about anything Second Amendment related, from the latest guns and ammunition to tactical gear and all that. You can see it at Recoil TV. Check them out. All right, let's get into, as I say, the meat and potatoes of the stories in our show. This first one comes to you via Breitbart. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, she's the former governor of Michigan, by the way. There she is in all her mask glory. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm on Colonial pipeline crisis. That is the name of the pipeline that's been shut down for a week. It's supposedly back up and running, and things are getting better, but we'll get into that in a minute. Colonial pipeline crisis. This is what she said. If you drove an electric car, this would not be affecting you. Imagine that. If you drove an electric car, it's your fault. It's your fault. Secretary of Department of Energy Jennifer Granholm said at a press conference at the White House on Tuesday that people who are driving electric cars are not affected by the hacker force shutdown of the Colonial pipeline. But ladies and gentlemen, I got to just say it. Does she really believe this? Now, we know these lefties always put out stuff that they don't actually believe. I mean, we've seen it with like Kamala Harris and talking about, for instance, everybody's got the vaccines work, right? But then her and her husband kiss each other, 100 feet from anybody with masks on. We've seen it when it comes to climate change. The Obamas spent between 15 and 30 million, depending on which source you believe, building a brand new home right on the edge of the coast in Nantucket, literally on the ocean's edge. Google literally spent, and due deference to algorithm on Facebook and Google, when I talk about them, the most powerful person in the world is algorithm. But Google spent over $1 billion upgrading and expanding their facilities right on the bay in San Francisco. They don't believe what they're saying. If they did, they would have built if they believed that global warming is going to flood out the earth, wouldn't they built it in Omaha instead of maybe San Francisco? But they don't believe it. So she's sitting here saying that if you drove an electric car, you wouldn't be affected by this. Well, either she just doesn't know what she's talking about, she's lying, or she's a complete idiot. Let's just put it this way. Because think about this, ladies and gentlemen, this pipeline issue specifically, it affected not only cars, but it affected the military. The military, these jet fighter planes, as far as I know, there aren't any jet fighters that run on electricity. They run off of jet fuel, and jet fuel was part of the fuel that went along this pipeline. So our military was affected, let alone airlines had to divert flights and make extra stops because they were running out of fuel in places like Charlotte and Atlanta for jets. I mean, this woman is an idiot, is she not? Either that or she's just a dadgum liar. But what is it about them that they want to blame you? So if you had an electric car, you'd be all right. Not to mention that who charges the dadgum electric car? In Atlanta, as far as I know, they don't get a lot of power from thermal nuclear energy or thermal energy from the volcanoes. I don't think they have a lot of windmills around Atlanta. So most of it is produced by carbon-based fuel, either gas, oil, or coal. So, I mean, people are just crazy. But a reporter asked, listen to this question. These are the types of questions that the Biden administration gets. Listen to this question. It's really a statement. Obviously, this was at a press conference when Secretary of Energy, Granholm was there. Obviously, we have acute issues with the Colonial pipeline ransomware attack. Still haven't heard a question. But looking more historically in a micro view, how does this speed up the efforts at DOE, Department of Energy, to move in more of a renewable direction, since this is going to have an impact on people at the pump? Wow, what a question, man. And ladies and gentlemen, the media is complicit on all this. Have they ever asked a question like that of Donald Trump? They just come straight at him. Boom, boom, boom. You imagine if this happened under Trump? What are you going to do about it? I mean, that would be the first thing they did. But Democrats, this is typical of Democrats. What this question that the media puts out and the way Granholm responds is part of the Democratic playbook. If you don't think I'm telling you the truth, watch this video, because this is Rahm Emanuel, former mayor of Chicago, former chief of staff to Obama, who's basically running the White House now. We know that. This is what he said about Democrats and what they should do when you have tragedies or crises like this gas situation. Check it out.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. I think America...
That's exactly right. What he says there at the end is an opportunity to do things like you could not do before. So trust me on this. Yes, she is pretty much an idiot, but she is a sinister, I guess, idiot, because what they're trying to do, ladies and gentlemen, if you hadn't figured this out, by canceling the XL pipeline, for God's sakes, they admitted during this pipeline crisis that John Kerry, and I think Granholm said it as well, that pipelines are among the most, if not the most efficient way to move fuel. They actually had the audacity to say that. At the same time, on the first day of Biden's White House, whatever you want to call it, he signed an executive order killing the XL pipeline, which, by the way, was the most efficient way to bring fuel into the United States of America. It's just absolutely nuts. But keep in mind what Rahm Emanuel said. He said, never let a crisis go to waste, a tragedy go to waste, because you can use it politically. That's what he said was in order to get things through that you might not otherwise. They want all of us. They're trying to sell us on the Green New Deal. And they talk about it in this article. Listen up. Graham said, yeah, I mean, obviously we're all on making sure that we meet the president's goals of getting to 100% clean electricity by 2035 and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And you know, if you drive an electric car, this would not be affecting you clearly. Wow. I mean, could they really believe this? Let me just tell you, translation, ladies and gentlemen, what she's saying is by you not driving a Tesla, that have been wrecking, by the way, because people are driving them from the back seat, idiots, man. I mean, what is it with people? I mean, they're just plain idiots. I was talking to a friend of mine from Atlanta on the phone on the way to the studios this morning, and he was telling me he's still planning on coming fishing because things are getting back to normal up there with gas and everything else. But we got to talking about people putting gas in plastic bags in the trunk of their car. And I said, I saw it. One of them was in Atlanta. And he said, yeah, there's a bunch of idiots up here. And we talked about it, and he's in construction. It's amazing how stupid we are getting as a people. And I'm not saying just everybody, but we are getting dumber by the day, man. If you're buying this BS coming out of the White House, that it's your fault. Translation from the Democrats, it is your fault. And if you honestly believe, now I understand that miracles, manna does fall from heaven from time to time, and there are amazing breakthroughs scientifically that we might not see right now, but will change the way we live. You know, the electric light bulb, for instance, just amazing. But it took Edison like 10,000 times to figure out what didn't work before he figured out what did. He even stated that himself. But if you believe, based on current technology, or really anything in the books, that we can be 2035, remember that. What is it now, 2021? So we're talking 14 years. In 14 years, we're going to be 100% clean energy. And that doesn't include nuclear energy. It's meaning they're going to do away with fossil fuels within the next 14 years. Well, put aside the fact that Ocasio-Cortez told us 4 years ago we only had like 12 years left to live. Put that aside for a minute. If you really believe that we can get off of fossil fuels inside of 14 years and be 100% clean energy, you're living on a different planet, man. I'm telling you right now, it is not possible with current technology or any technology that is really on the drawing board. Now, miracles do happen. And then she goes on to say, and net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So basically less than 30 years, we're going to be completely off of carbon-based fuels. Without nuclear, I keep mentioning that, without nuclear, we're going to be off carbon-based fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not possible unless, now there is a big unless we go to something like this, unless we go back to the Flintstones, baby, where they're pedaling their car. I thought we had a picture of that, maybe not. Sometimes I mess up, but if we got the Flintstones, because the only way the Green New Deal is actually going to work, ladies and gentlemen, is if we go back to the Stone Age. So yeah, we can get off of everything if we go back to living in the caves, man. It's just unbelievable. But Granholm went on to say the broader issue. Listen to this right here. I'm going to probably have a hard time reading this because it's Biden speak, basically. Maybe that's why he appointed her to the energy secretary. He probably should have had, why didn't Hunter Biden become energy secretary? That don't make any sense. He is, after all, a highly paid expertise in this area. The broader issue, this is what Granholm said, and this is not Biden, but it sounds like him. The broader issue is a very important issue. It's an issue for the president's priority and the American jobs plan. The issue for investing in a transmission grid, for example, so that you don't have the cyber issues associated with it. Cyber issues and technology with electrical grid? Isn't that something we're worried about? I mean, come on. There's no cyber issues there, right? She goes on to say, there's a lot of broader questions in this, and we hope that we will be able to see that investment in infrastructure that will facilitate clean and renewable energy. Well, my follow-up question would be, what did you just say? It's unbelievable. I could read it again, but I don't want to torture you. She literally spoke there for 2 or 3 minutes and said nothing at all. And I guess the only thing I can get out of it, translating that gobbledygook, is that we just haven't spent enough money yet. We haven't spent enough money on this energy. Oh, and it's coming. Have you seen what's happening? Can you say the word inflation, maybe hyperinflation? It's actually upon us now. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. And I pulled this out of off the internet, right? But it's a reliable source. Last spring, a standard 2x4 that sold for $3.39. So a year ago, a 2x4 basically sold at Home Depot or wherever for $3.39 now goes for $8.79, more than double. And half-inch plywood that sold for $15.99 a year ago can currently sell for as much as $48.95, basically $50. It's unbelievable. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the cost of, I used to be in construction. I used to bid jobs all the time. And I can tell you, when you bid a job, even if you're successful at getting the job, you don't actually start ordering products and material for that job. It might be a year later. And you expect some inflation on some of this stuff. But tripling, some of it going up by 100%, some of it going up by more than that. And this is and it's going to go up even more over the course of this year because nothing is free. And money ain't free either. When they give out, you notice they haven't raised taxes, and I'm not advocating for that, but they got all this money. So when you have an oversupply of something, what happens? It goes down. The reason why gas prices, I'm giving you a little economics here for you snowflakes. The reason why gas prices have shot up in the last few days is because there's more demand than there is supply. Okay? So the reverse is also true. If there's more supply than there is demand, the price of that commodity goes down. It's the same thing with money. If they're not raising taxes, which, they probably will, they're going to try, then they're basically printing money and they're flooding the market with money, which means the money in your pocket today is worth less tomorrow. It is simple, basic economics. The Democrats say, Republicans don't believe in science. Well, that may or may not be true, but one thing we know, the Democrats, they don't believe in the science of economics because they just don't care about money. But the Democrats are blaming you, ladies and gentlemen. They blame the American people. What is it with this crap? Blaming the American people. We're the most racist country that ever existed. I don't know why these people of color are trying to come across our border. It makes no sense to me if they're going to be persecuted when they get here. It's just crazy. Name me, and I know this is probably controversial, but name me one black country that isn't really going through hell right now in Africa. Name me one. And I'm not blaming necessarily the people there. They got crappy leadership, right? But tell me one place in America where you have it better as a person of color than the United States of America. Are we perfect? Heck no. Heck no, we're not perfect. We're not perfect, and we never will be. Because there's a book out there somewhere. We ought to get back to maybe reading it a little bit. And it says something about all of us falling short of the glory. So even though I do believe our system of government and our Constitution was divinely inspired through our founding fathers, it's imperfect because it's people. People are imperfect. But Democrats blame Americans for this problem, period. And I tell you, it kind of falls into what I've been saying for the last year or so. The Democrats' mantra, basically, their new mantra is basically the America Sucks plan. America sucks. It's always sucked. It sucks for some of you more than others, and you keep electing us and in power, and we will promise you to make it suck for everybody on an equal basis. That is basically what they're doing. But I am so sick of the Democrats blaming the American people. It's just absolutely insane. So, it's your fault that there's gas lines out there. It's your fault because you're not towing the line and driving your little Flintstone car. They don't really want you in electric cars. They want you in the Flintstone mobile. All right, here's some good news. This is a Washington Examiner story. DeSantis announces pardons for any Floridians charged with breaking pandemic restrictions, according to the Washington Examiner. The free state of Florida, baby. As I keep telling you, man, American by birth, Floridian. By the grace of God, thank you. Thank you, dear Lord, and thank you, Governor DeSantis. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced that he will pardon anyone charged with violations of pandemic restrictions. Right on, sir. DeSantis said, I'm also glad to be able to say, I'm not sure what that means, to say that effective tomorrow morning, I'm going to sign a reprieve under my constitutional authority. He said on Wednesday he was on Fox and Friends, and he broke this news on Wednesday. They had a couple being interviewed on there that had some issues with the pandemic and the business. Listen to this. DeSantis on Wednesday breaking the news live on Fox News to a couple who was facing potential jail time for allowing patrons at their Broward County gym to exercise without a mask. Off with their heads. I mean, in Michigan, for instance, they're putting people, we covered this story a few months ago, they're putting people in jail for opening their businesses, even though the government tells you to shut down. Come on to the free state of Florida. Just don't bring whatever you're running from with you. I reported that a month or so ago. The best way to look at our podcast, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is you could go to our multiple ways. Go to any of our social media sites, and they're kind of archived there. Remember, Recoil TV, we have them archived there, but we're also on America's Voice News. If you haven't heard of them, America's Voice News is a great alternative to the mainstream media. They're on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Channel 219, Dish Network, and the Pluto channel. And you can download free apps on your Android or your iPhone. We don't have a live show on there at the moment, but you could petition them and tell them you want to see us live. But we're on their streaming service. Go to America's Voice News on whatever streaming service you use. Click on their tab. When you get to that, look on the shows tab, click on it, and you'll see our show up there archived on a daily basis in like 16-minute segments for your viewing pleasure. But other states have been literally locking people up. But let me tell you, my governor, buddy, my governor has, well, I don't know how else to say it. He's got the cojones. I'll put my governor's cojones up against your governor's anytime. And there's a lot of great governors out there, pretty much all of them Republicans, but man, DeSantis is the man. But this is what he said. So talking about his action and helping these people, literally helping people. He understands the role of government. He said, so that will delay the case for 60 days against both of them. And then when our clemency board meets in the coming weeks, we will issue pardons not only for Mike and Jillian, the owners of the gym, but for any Floridian that may have outstanding infractions for things like masks and social distancing. Man, and let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, think about this. This guy, DeSantis, barely won. Now, he's up for re-election, and he's pretty much announced he's going to run. And they're going to throw everything. He's up for re-election in 2022. They're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at this guy, all kinds of money, because not only do they want to defeat him as governor, but they're afraid if he actually wins that he would be on track to be potentially the next president of the United States. So they're going to try to destroy Ron DeSantis, and we cannot let that happen. But think about this. Ron DeSantis won on a recount. Now, he led the whole way, but this guy right here, Andrew Gillum, was within an eyelash of becoming governor. If you don't know the story of Andrew Gillum, I mean, he's about as crooked as they come. He was found about a year or so ago in a hotel room, passed out, overdosed, with feces on the sheets, blood and feces on the sheets, with two other guys, one of them ODing, and the other one, this buffed out model that looks like a mini Arnold Schwarzenegger. This guy, Andrew Gillum, almost became the governor of Florida. Oh my God. Now he gives a whole new definition of proper social distancing, because I guarantee you whatever was going on in that hotel room, and I don't really want to know, I don't think they were social distancing much at all. I'm just saying. But DeSantis said he was making the move to these pardons because local government health orders should have only been recommendations. And I can tell you right here where I live, man, it is liberal bastion. If you want to see where I live, look at the blue and red county map of the state of Florida. I live in the Sea of Blue, which is Alachua County, up in the north central part, surrounded by red, man. I have been in a blue wave paddling hard for my whole life. But DeSantis said it's total overreach, talking about what the government does. These things with health should be advisory. They should not be punitive. Amen, sir. Amen to that. Because check this out. I want to play you a video here that this is the governor of New Jersey on Tucker Carlson's show over a year ago now, I think. And he's talking about who gave him the authority to shut down these, to shut the state of New Jersey down, to shut down businesses, shut down churches and everything else. I really believe that, well, let's watch this and you'll see what I mean. Check it out.
Was the right decision to make.
So you made that decision, and as I noted before, 15 congregants at a synagogue in New Jersey were arrested and charged for being in a synagogue together. Now, the Bill of Rights, as you well know, protects Americans' right, enshrines their right to practice their religion as they see fit and to congregate together, to assemble peacefully. By what authority did you nullify the Bill of Rights in issuing this order? How do you have the power to do that?
That's above my pay grade, Tucker. So I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this. We went to all. First of all, we looked.
Good enough. I like. Hey, Chuckles. The Bill of Rights is above his pay grade. The Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen, is not above anybody's pay grade. The Bill of Rights is as important to the individual, no matter what their station in life is to the governor. In fact, I would argue that the governor of a state should know more about the Bill of Rights than the average person out here, right? But he chose, we weren't even thinking about the Bill of Rights. No joke. You weren't. You haven't been. We've been living in a post-constitutional country for some time now. Do you understand how tragic it is and what it really means when we say we weren't even thinking about the Bill of Rights? That should have been the first thing you thought about, period. I mean, Governor DeSantis, man, I tell you what, I'll put him up against any of these governors out there, especially these crazy Democrats. But then again, you know, maybe Governor Murphy, I think is his name, from New Jersey, maybe he's just a visionary ahead of his time, because the leader of the Democratic Party, remember, anytime you hear Joe Biden talk, remember that he said flat out, in a very dramatic fashion during the debates, that he was the Democratic Party, that he is the Democratic Party. And so maybe Governor Murphy, in defense of him, maybe he was understanding and was seeing the future, because the leader of the Democratic Party, and God help us, the President of the United States of America, said this twice just in the past week. Check it out.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. So you got a governor saying, we're not even thinking about the Bill of Rights. And you got the leader of the Democratic Party, supposed to be the leader of the free world, the guy occupying the White House, however you want to say it, telling you that no amendment is absolute. Do you understand what that means? Now, I've been saying this for the past couple of weeks, ever since Biden said it, because not only did he say it when he was signing executive orders taking people's Second Amendment rights away. Remember, Big Daddy Unlimited, support your Second Amendment rights. Check out our sponsor in the links above the show. But Biden said it, he doubled down and said the same thing at his, whatever you want to call it, State of the Union address to the nation, the joint session of Congress. He said the same thing, absolutely the same thing, that no amendment is absolute. Do you really understand the gravity of that? Because once an amendment happened to any legal document, and basically the Constitution is a contract, right? It's a contract, but it gives permission from the governed, which is us, to the government to govern us. And the design of the Constitution is not to empower the government. We the people, contrary to what Biden said, again, at that State of the Union address, where he said, we the people is us, the government. No, hell no, it's not. It's us, Joe. It's the average working stiff out here, the taxpayers, the citizens of America. We the people are the government, not you. And I'm sick of you blaming us for every problem that comes down the line, some of which are your own making. We're going to talk more about that. But understand this, ladies and gentlemen. I got to get back on track. Billy Bob tells me, get back on it. He's my psychic sidekick, by the way. He keeps me on track. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. We're determined to stay in the public square. We got new formats coming up. Big Daddy Unlimited, I can't give you all the details yet, but we're building a whole new platform behind the scenes, new studio and all. More will be revealed in the coming weeks, but we're determined to stay in the public square. We need your help to do it. Share the show far and wide. Support our sponsors, please. I need your help. But I want to get back on track, like Billy Bob said. When Biden says that no amendment is absolute, he's essentially saying, well, he is saying from a legal point of view that the Constitution is not absolute, because once a legal document, in this case the Constitution, is amended, that amendment is not separate from the Constitution. It is a part of the fabric of the Constitution. So when you say that no amendment is absolute, you're saying the Constitution is not absolute, and then it can be defined by people like Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Maxine Waters. I mean, so, if you're cool with that, then I'm not cool with you. That's all I can say. But we don't have to agree, but we should agree that the Constitution is absolute. It's not unchangeable, but it is absolute until we change it. It just rankles me, man. In the case of Mike, and back to this article, these are the two people that were penalized in Florida for having their gym open by local authority, not the state. In the case of Mike and Jillian Carnavella, who were facing up to 120 days in jail for their violations. Think about that. You are facing jail time for simply opening your business. I didn't mean to get on these rants, but I got to get on another one right quick. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, that our country was essentially founded, the shot heard round the world, the Boston Tea Party, all of that stuff that basically started the foundation of our country, the Revolutionary War. It was about business as much as it was personal freedom, because most Americans at that time were small business owners where they owned a farm. Very few people worked for somebody else. They kind of worked for themselves. Certainly all of our leaders did at that time. And they started it because they wanted freedom. They didn't want a big government across the sea, in this case, King George, telling them whether or not they could open their business and everything else. Or how they wanted freedom. Imagine that word, freedom to conduct your commerce. That's, our country was literally founded on freedom, period, and freedom of commerce. So for these governors and these presidents and these Congress people and these mayors and county commissioners to just say, you can't open your business because we say so, is un-American, period. It's un-American. I'm not saying, and there's no proof that it saved anybody's life. It certainly destroyed a lot of lives. There's plenty of that. But these people were facing up to 120 days in jail for their violations. DeSantis also pointed out that masks are not recommended for use while exercising. He's right. That's CDC stuff. These are DeSantis words, so don't get me in trouble. I'm not giving out COVID advice. I'm simply reading what the governor of my great state of Florida said. He went on to say, the fact is, it's not even right to be wearing masks when you're exercising. The World Health Organization, WHO, advises against it. It's not healthy to be doing that in the first place, so it was a bad restriction. Oh my God. DeSantis is talking about facts, and he's talking about believing in science? I mean, did he not get the message from our imperial leader when it comes to facts and truth and science? Well, I'm going to play this for the benefit of our great governor, because clearly he doesn't understand what our imperial leader when it comes to truth and facts. Let's get it straight from the horse's something or another. Check it out.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
Truth over facts.
So, folks,
I mean, like that Energy Secretary Granholm later, she's in the perfect place with Biden, because you don't know what the heck they're talking about at any given moment, man. I think some of it is planned, I swear, to try to make us just go, But if we're, ladies, the truth is, if we're putting gasoline in garbage bags, in Ziploc bags, then maybe we get the government we deserve, man. I mean, it's just crazy. The move comes a week after DeSantis signed a bill suspending all COVID restrictions. He did it a week ago. Our local county commission finally caved in and did it like yesterday. Restrictions in the state handcuffing local governments that were hoping to keep restrictions in place longer. Handcuffing local governments. Is that what they were doing? Is that what DeSantis is doing? Handcuffing local governments? I think it's just the opposite. Freedom. It's freedom, baby. Ron DeSantis is channeling his inner Mel Gibson here, man. Freedom. Do you remember what that was? Freedom doesn't mean irresponsibility. It's just the opposite. You have to be personally responsible to be free. If you want to be free and stupid and ignorant, you want what never was and never will be. I'm paraphrasing Thomas Jefferson right now. But it's unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen, that they would say that DeSantis, by freeing people, is somehow handcuffing government. Well, if that's true, then handcuff the heck out of them. The Constitution, I just had an epiphany. The Constitution basically is right about that. The Constitution does handcuff government because you don't want an unfettered, overpowering government, because then you got communist China. And they you know how they cured the Wuhan flu? Remember this? We forget this. Nobody talks about it. But one of the ways they cured the flu in Wuhan was they locked people up and welded the doors shut in apartment buildings where people were. And it's hard to spread the flu when you're welded in your doors. Is that what you really want? Freedom is a lot of personal responsibility. But DeSantis went on to say, he said, I think that's the evidence-based thing to do. In other words, lift all these restrictions and pardon people who were accused of it. He said, I think folks that are saying they need to be policing people at this point, after the vaccines, and if you're saying that, then you're really saying you don't believe in the vaccine. He's got a good point there. An algorithm, I'm not saying that. I'm not giving out COVID advice. But I think our governor makes a good point. And if that makes me somehow go to Facebook jail, I guess so be it. But my thing is, these businesses, we never should have been shut down in the first place. I still want to answer, and I've yet to get this. Who gave the authority? And I'm just going to say it from the president all the way down to the local mayors. Who gave them the authority to basically lock us down? I don't see anything in the Constitution other than martial law that gives them the ability to do that. Yet, and here's the biggest shocker for me. The biggest shocker for me going into the pandemic and coming out of it is how many sheeple we actually have in this country. How far we have strayed from the rugged individualists that founded this nation. Look at California shut down. You think the people that crossed in 1849, the quote 49ers, do you think they thought about they were going to be shut down when they crossed the Rocky Mountains? The people that founded California were the hardiest people on the planet. Not so much right now. Maybe that's why they're losing populations. But our businesses never should have been shut down in the first place. And I got a piece of news for you. You snowflakes may want to cover your ears to this because it may terrify you. I've said it before. Of course, if I say it, it bears repeating. It's never, ever been safe to leave the cave. Never has been. And I don't know that it ever will be. It's never been safe to leave the cave. And if you listen to experts, I'm not saying we shouldn't listen to scientists. I'm not saying that at all. But you can't make your decisions based solely on what the experts say. Because I guarantee you there was an expert that told the first man in a cave, don't go out there because there's a saber-toothed tiger and he's going to bite you in the arse. And if we listen to the experts, we never would have left the dadgum cave, man. It's never been safe to leave the cave. You've always had to take personal responsibility and assess your own risk. We seem to have lost that as a whole in this nation. Now, there are a lot of people who don't believe that, don't feel that way, and still are rugged individualists, and I thank you for watching the show. And if you're not one of them, keep watching, and I hope I will convince you that that is the better way to go. That is why we're having so much trouble getting people hired, because it's not only that they're getting paid to stay at home, but it's also that they've lost that sense of drive. That sense of wanting to be better than people before me, wanting to see what is over the next mountaintop, wanting to risk it all to prove something. You know, we've lost that as a whole, and it is a dadgum shame, man, because without it, we will go down. So that's why I'm always pushing rugged individuals. I'm always battling ignorance and apathy, because I want you to man the political ramparts, because I don't want you to have to man the real ones again, because that price has been paid. Let's keep going here. In the case of the pardons, DeSantis argued that local governments were treating Floridians unfairly. You think? He said this, and man, I love my governor. He said, I think they've been treated poorly, talking about Floridians and business owners, but fortunately, they've got a governor that cares. Wow. They got a governor in Ron DeSantis that cares. That's my governor, man. My governor. And when I was writing my notes about this, I thought about Eddie Murphy. You go, what do you mean Eddie Murphy? Well, Eddie Murphy had, and this is old school for some of y'all, he had a comedy routine about ice cream. He's talking about how he bought ice cream in the ghetto, and you know how he could afford ice cream and other people couldn't. So he'd turn around and said, I got my ice cream. You can't have no ice cream. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty funny, actually. It's dated. But I feel the same way about my governor. I got Governor DeSantis, and you don't have him. You can't have him. Well, you know, I might be willing to share him in 2024 if the case arises. I'm just saying. All right, we got a few minutes left. I got to get into this next story because I bash Democrats on a routine basis, especially their leaders, because I stand by it. I'm not talking about all Democrats. I'm not talking about the rank and file Democratic voters. I'm talking about the people you have elected to public office, especially at the national level. The progressives have taken over this country. You know, if you've been watching my show any length of time, if you're new, welcome. Glad to have you. Spread the word. The truth, is my one buddy from patriotthreads.org always tells me, the truth starts now. My main political goal, my only real political goal right now, is to stop the progressive takeover of this great nation. So I'm going to judge you from outhouse to White House, Park Avenue, Park Bench, everywhere in between, appointed, elected, whatever. Probably not fair, but I'm going to judge you based on whether or not you can help me stop the progressive takeover of this country. Who's with me? Please join me. But so I bash the Democrat elected people because I don't see any of them, especially at the national level, standing up to stop the progressive takeover of this country. They're aiding and abetting it. But I got to speak truth where truth is, and it appears that this Democratic mayor is standing up, and I want to give him some credit. This is a Breitbart story. Democratic Texas mayor, border seems to be wide open, but when I ask for help, admin, talking about the Biden administration, tells me it's under control. So there he is, the mayor of Del Rio, Texas. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he probably is Hispanic. It looks that way to me. Del Rio, Texas Mayor Bruno Lozano, Democrat, pushed back against statements from the Biden administration that the border is closed and said that the border seems to be wide open for unlawful entry. So he's sitting there watching them, going back and forth. And he's saying, hey, it looks to me like the border is wide open. And he said that when he has reached out to the administration, talking about Biden, they keep telling us that the border is under control. The border is under control. Well, I would tell the mayor that maybe it is under control. From the perspective, it depends on how you look at it. Now, I realize as a small town mayor, like I used to be, it ain't under control. You got to deal with situations. But maybe from Biden's perspective and the Democratic Party as a whole, it is going exactly according to plan. Because remember this, I'm going to play this short clip from the 2020 Democratic primary debates when you had Biden and Harris on the stage as well, about 10 of the 20 that were running, and they were asked a question and listen to their response. Check it out.
The stage last night on the topic of decriminalization of the border. If you'd be so kind, raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them?
And let's remember, that's not just a
there they are. That's
exercise.
Good enough. We don't need to hear from Butt Get there. But there they are, raising their hands. They're all for decriminalizing. In other words, making it where it's not illegal to bum rush our border. So they're telling you these are all the people running for the Democratic primary to be the next president of the United States, So I would tell the mayor of Del Rio, maybe you should think about switching. Not saying the Republicans have all the answers, because they don't. But it sounds like what's happening at our border, call it what you will, it's going according to plan. Lozano, the mayor there in Del Rio, added that when he has reached out to the administration, they keep telling us that the border is under control. I simply do not understand how that's under control. Well, Mr. Mayor, I hate to tell you, I'm going to play you 2 quick videos and we'll end the show. It's all going according to the establishment, in some sense, of both parties' plan. Because here is the leader of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, telling you about illegal immigration and what it means to America. Check it out.
We can afford to do this this is a big country. The idea we can accommodate more people in the interest of the United States. And by the way, guess what? They're the reason why. The legal as well as undocumented are the reason why our society is functioning, the reason why our economy is growing. We don't talk about that. We stand up and act like it's a burden. It is not a burden. It's a gift.
It's a gift. There you have Joe Biden, the leader of the Democratic Party, the president of the United States, God help us, telling you that people illegally crossing our border is a gift. And to be fair, the guy who wanted to be president, yes, Mr. It's time to clap, Jeb Bush, said this about illegal immigrants coming to this country.
Bush for this comment about illegal immigrants.
Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of it's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family.
Act of love. So it's the 2 people that kind of represent the establishment, if you will, of both parties, tell you, one telling you it's a gift and the other telling you love. Maybe it's just a gift of love. So if you had a crime committed, if you were murdered if your child was killed, like my good friend Sabine Durden, if your son was killed by a drunk driver who have been deported like 5 times, they just gave you the greatest gift of love you could have. And you know I love you, Sabine, out there, man. I hate to say it, Mr. Mayor, out in Del Rio. I applaud you as a Democrat for standing up and saying the emperor has no clothes, but it is going according to the plan of the progressive takeover of this country. Join me, Mr. Mayor. We got to stop it. Democrats, Republicans, whatever. We have to stop the progressive takeover of this country. I put a clarion call out to you to join me. Spread the word. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all our social media sites. Spread the word. Please look at our sponsors and click on those links as I told you before. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. God, we need to pray for this nation because, man, she needs it and deserves it. She's paid the price. We don't have to pay it again, but we might if we keep going down this road. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.